I'm glad you're in charge of the technology.
Thanks. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of A Couple with a Driving Instructor, and today we've got three of us, so myself, Becky and Jade. So thank you to those guys for joining us, and thanks for some of our group members on Facebook for suggesting this particular topic. I thought it was super interesting, and I think we could have gone on for hours and hours and hours talking about this and going down different avenues, but we try to keep it as concise as we can. So if you haven't got the time to watch the full episode, why not pop over to some of our other platforms that we've got just the audible version of, and you can perhaps listen to it in the car. Today, looking at why we stand out as an individual, why we stand out as a driving instructor individually, and why we're perhaps chosen over other instructors in our areas. Going into a bit more detail in today's chat, we cover first impressions, what that might look like, striking a balance between professionalism and approachability, whereabouts do we stand in that, and then we have some key takeaway points as well. Now, as always, myself and Becky appreciate all of your support. Hope you enjoy the episode. If you've got any comments you want to leave us, pop them in the comments below. Hi Becky, hi Jade. Thanks very much for joining us on episode 2. Really appreciate you taking the time out to do this for me today. We've decided that episode 2 is going to be why someone would or could pick me as their driving instructor, and this was brought up by someone in our Facebook group.
Amazing. Hi, Scott. Hi, Jade. My name is Becky. I am a driving instructor and a driving instructor trainer.
Hello. Hiya. So I'm Jade, and I'm currently a driving instructor.
Fantastic. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm also a driving instructor, instructor trainer, amongst other things. Now somehow a podcast host, perhaps.
Killing it. Smashing it.
I don't know about smashing it. Let's start off with exploring why our learners, students, whatever we want to call them, choose a specific driving school or driving instructor. And I guess my first thoughts on this is, what's the highlight in what makes a good instructor a good choice, and perhaps what makes them fit for a certain learner? So for you guys, I guess my question to you lot is, what sets us apart as individuals? To you?
I think it's a hard one to answer because you don't want to come across big-headed, do you, really? But I'm just basing it off students' comments that they give you based on previous experience that they've had with other instructors, etc. But I like to think me is I bring a good vibe. I'm bubbly, quite relatable on some aspects.
To play devil's advocate, is it a case of, if somebody's had a previous instructor, anything that we don't do that last instructor did, could that be seen as, oh my God, we're the best thing since sliced bread? I mean, it's very rare that we have a student or a learner that's had 4, 5, 6 instructors where they can compare so many people. I think we're in an industry where most people don't have anything to compare it against apart from their last learning setting, whether it's school, college, university. And of course, it's a very different place, isn't it?
Yeah.
But is there any sort of feedback that you've had, like, I guess regularly, that makes you think, yeah, this is why people pick me?
Yeah, quite recently I've had it quite a lot. Even today, I think it's weird how I've jumped on this call today, like especially with this topic. But I think, yeah, quite recently I think it's the same feedback of, I just think so many people are suffering with anxiety at the minute. And that is probably the most feedback that I've had recently, is how I've made them feel with their anxiety. Like I've made them not feel like, that they can't say this and they can't say that because they're worried of, they just love the fact that I can relate to them. And I think as well, the young girls and the women my age, I think, because the women my age, mums as well, etc., you bounce off of each other. So yeah, I think recently I've had quite a lot of feedback to say that they just really enjoy it. They enjoy the vibe. They enjoy the laugh as well. I think because we have a good laugh. I think everyone has to have a good laugh. Like, it can't all be serious. Like, you've got to have a laugh.
Absolutely.
Like,
It's got to be enjoyable. And that's quite an easy thing to to lose, I think, in our job if we're not careful. It can,
Yeah.
like any job, I suppose, it can become mundane and same thing, different day sort of thing. And it's, yeah, absolutely important. What about you then, Becky? What are you
Yeah.
hearing frequently?
I love what Jade said about the vibe, and you mentioning the feedback you're getting about helping people with their anxiety. It's that vibe that you bring, isn't it? It's just the way that you are, which is fantastic in the car. And I think one of the things that I like to think I'm really good at, and a lot of people recommend me for it, is that the learning doesn't feel like I'm a drill sergeant telling them what to do. It's very much a conversation that happens, and the learner is at the center of it, and they feel in charge of their learning. They don't go away thinking, God, I'm mentally drained. I've just had an hour being told what to do and I'm knackered. They go away enjoying it and feeling like they've learned stuff in a safe place, which I think is important. What would you say, Scott? What do you think people come to you for?
I guess it's a little bit harder for me to think back to when I was just an instructor and it was just me. As you both know, I work with and support a number of instructors. So I probably receive calls more frequently than somebody that is out on their own and picking up and returning calls between lessons. So I hear a lot of what people are looking for and the sort of questions more frequently that get asked. So to set that aside and say, what do people come to me for? I think I very quickly became recognized in my area for working with people with various different ailments and disabilities or learning needs, because that was shared. And I believe it's sort of my feeling is it's more awareness is happening now for these things. People are not afraid to talk about it and recognize that they need a different style and a different approach. And so when one person has, like you said, they've just rung a driving school and happened to fall into my car and seen that, well, this works for me, that's the main one for me. But I think if I was to look over my reviews online, most of them are about technical. I've always been somebody that wants to know everything about something so that I can give the understanding of why. I'm not just going to drill this information into somebody, but I'm always ready for the why and why it happens. Why is the engine running? For want of a better analogy, and I can give that, and a lot of my feedback online reflects that. So, yeah. But
Do you
how?
think that's something that every learner cares about
No.
initially? Do you think that's why they come to you initially, or do you think that's something that they learn from you and they start to experiment with you and get curious about, and then they see the benefit of it, and that's then why you get recommended and referrals?
If I can answer that question, and that if I think of a hobby, how do we know we're going to enjoy that hobby unless we try it? And I get, we put our children in front of things to give them a chance to try these new things and what excites them, what gets them going, and then we run with it, don't we? And I think there's an element of that in with what we do is 9 times out of 10, from my experience, it'll be based on price and how that initial phone call. If somebody's called up and they are nervous, then they're not, the first thing they're going to say is I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
It could be something else, could be price, could be a recommendation, could be anything. And then they learn these additional bits and pieces. It's hard for me to give an exact opinion from a consumer's perspective because I'm on the other side. And to think back to before I wasn't, well, so many years ago, and I can't even remember it too much, to be honest. So no, in answer to your question, no, I don't think they do. But that's the topic of conversation tonight for us, isn't it? Is why would somebody? What are people doing to make that decision? What's their? I think eventually we'll hopefully we can move on to that flow, that customer journey. It's interesting though. So the 3 people here, we've we've got three different perhaps answers, but is it fair to say that we all three of us recognise that potentially what we're internally in our industry known for, what we know our strengths are, what our skills are, perhaps aren't the shop window? Because if we
Yeah, I think so. I think there's you know, oh my daughter's turning 17 soon. I need to get a driving instructor. What's their prices? What's their availability? For me, I think they're the main factors, unless you've got a learner that is looking for something additional. So is it someone that can help with anxiety? Is it someone that can help with additional needs? Is it is it a female because my daughter's requested a female? Is it my uncle's best mate's friend that goes to the pub with him who's an instructor? I think unless it's something specific, I think it's usually money and availability that's initially, isn't it? And then the rest of the stuff's just the benefits that they soon learn.
I'd agree. I mean, Jade's probably a great person to ask here, actually, because Jade, you get a number of referrals and things, and do you ask that question? Do you find that out from your like customers why they've recommended and what you was recommended for? Was it just that they
Yeah.
passed?
Yes. I mean, I've had a few recommendations, probably from previous students that have passed. They know someone, obviously with views on Facebook, i.e. like with the learner today. She said to me that she found me via a review that she saw, that she helped someone with like her anxiety, etc., and stuff like that. And that's why she asked for me specifically. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've had that. But then other times it isn't. It's just what you guys have said. It's just the fact that I'm available and they want to try.
Yeah,
So,
it's really interesting because I don't know about you guys. You sometimes see in Facebook a post, and it could be a couple of three times a day, where anybody can anybody recommend me a driving instructor? Now they're asking in a public forum from people that they don't know for recommendations. Is it a case of whose name comes up first? Is it a question of how many times that name's been recommended? Then we bring into the Facebook algorithm of how many times things are tagged. Do they go through the list from top to bottom? Because that's what people do on Google. There's so much to think about.
I think sometimes, I think it depends, doesn't it? It depends on the person who's asking. Are they waiting for someone that they know who's commented and recommending someone? Are they looking for the one that's commented most? I think whenever my driving school is ever recommended, I always comment and reply, and then personally reply on the post to the poster saying, get in touch. And I think that delivers a bit of a personal touch, which is quite nice than just seeing a load of names. But it goes down to that question: what is it that the poster is looking for? Are they looking for a driving instructor that's recommended the most? Are they looking for a driving instructor that's recommended once, and it's like you say, it's the first that comes up? Yeah.
So is what we're saying here
lots of factors
in terms of advice from our experiences is be on Facebook, I think, isn't it?
be on Facebook.
Be on Facebook is one of them. We've spoken about our skills that we've got, that we know we can bring to our table, and what we enjoy and what we specialize in. But you've both also mentioned about the connection and fit. So how do we moderate that? How do we, when we get in a call or we're dealing with a customer, they choose us, right? But is there not an element of us choosing them? Do we ever turn somebody down?
I actually had a phone call with a PDI today, who was feeling a bit conflicted because they've let somebody go, and they explained to me that they felt we talked about the vibe. They felt the vibe was off, and we had a conversation about that. And they said that they were feeling a bit guilty, but they didn't feel like they were the person to help this person learn. And there was various factors, and I'm not going to go into those various factors.
Was that skill based, or was that more of a personable?
There was a bit of both involved, and the PDI was basically asking, have I done the right thing? Is that okay, what I've done? If you genuinely feel like there are factors that you need to take into account, that you think, do you know what, maybe I'm not the right person for this person to learn, as long as you do it in the right way, as long as you help them and you explain it to them in the best way possible and do your best to find them someone that can fit for them, there's nothing wrong with that. I remember when I first started out, maybe within the first couple of months of being a PDI, still brand new, still a baby to it, somebody with autism. Now I have a son with autism, so I'm not new to autism, but I was new to teaching it and it wasn't my speciality. Somebody came to me with autism and we had the conversation of, I might not be the person for you. Let's put this out there and let you know that that might not be what I can be for you. And I think if you know that your style, your vibe isn't going to match the other person's vibe, I think you're okay to have a conversation and see what solutions you can come up with to make sure that everyone, they're paying you for a service. If you don't think that you can provide that service, there's nothing wrong with recommending them to someone else or getting someone else involved, seeing if you can help them in a different way.
It's interesting, isn't it, that and I've had this conversation with many people myself, with instructors as well, that we can. I see a lot of it's easy to say no, I don't have availability.
Yeah,
but it's a lot more difficult to tread that conversation of, is this a personality fit or a skill mismatch? It's an interesting one, isn't it? Difficult.
Have you had anything like that, Scott?
Yes, could be down to having conversations about people's, I want to say lifestyle, but perhaps, being the wrong time in their life, too much going on, studies, exams, difficulties in jobs, relationships, and hitting that learning plateau and trying to work through it and just get a priority. So find having these conversations. But yeah.
Absolutely.
And also there's the expectation from other people involved, so maybe parents, guardians, family members, friends, that can have a factor in this. So yeah, it's always a difficult conversation, but I think it's really important that the conversations are had, because yeah, we could sit there and take their money all day long, but that's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
And I think we lose a little bit of our integrity if we're not open and honest about these things. And like you said, hey, this might not be a right fit here for whatever reason, and have that. And I think that carries weight back onto our previous, on the topic just before this, is, what sets us apart. And a word I use and a mantra I use is being transparent, and that we're open and honest.
I had, the question of why can people come to us? I had a lovely young girl once, and I think it's important to mention when we are thinking about why are people coming to us, there is nothing wrong in lesson 1 with asking, why are you starting your lessons now? What is it that's happening in life now that's meaning that you're starting your lessons? What will driving bring to your life? Having conversations like that. I once had a young girl who, again, I was a PDI at the time, and I hadn't started having those conversations with learners. I hadn't started realizing the benefits to both of us of finding out their why and their motivation. And after a few lessons, you could see how miserable she was. She did not want to be in the car. And we had a conversation, and it turned out that her mum was making her have lessons. And the daughter, my pupil, hated her mum. She did not get on with her at all. So we managed to, so she was resenting the lessons. She didn't want to learn because it would please her mum. So we changed that mindset, and we said, well, how about the sooner you can pass, the sooner you can then move out, and you've got your independence, and you can do this, that, and the other. And,
yeah, it's the motivator, isn't it?
Yeah, and it worked, and it motivated her. And that then, originally her why for coming for lessons for me was nothing to do with me. It was nothing to do with her. It was her mum that wanted her to have lessons. But we managed to change it into a positive thing for her. So
I don't know about you guys, but for me, if something, especially in the early days, didn't feel right, I almost was thinking, what have I done wrong? Or what am I doing wrong? talking about people getting stuck or learning plateaus and reasons for picking us. Just to add on, there is I like self-development, and I always ask myself, what do I need to learn for our learner to learn? And so adaptability, I think, is really, really important, that we adapt. So I'm hoping that this moves on to talking about teaching style and communication skills and adaptability. We've already brushed or touched on it about first impressions, and I think we can all agree, and from what we said, is it really does matter. That first lesson really matters. And if I use my experience from being on the phone to hundreds of people a week, is 9 times out of 10 people, can I just book that first lesson and see how we get on? And that is super important, because they've already reached out to us. They've seen us. They've seen our shop window. For whatever reason it is, they've liked the colour, they've liked the price, they've liked the face, they've liked the image, they like the font. I don't know what it might be. It could be any of those things. But they've picked up the phone, or they've popped an email or a text message or whatever it might be. So that first impression, they've sat in the car with you, matters. How important are those things to you guys? What experiences can you both share on how that has affected whether somebody stays with you or goes elsewhere?
I think for me, like, I had a student the other day, funny enough, as you said that. Well, when I say the other day, by the way, I probably mean about 3-4 weeks ago. Just saying.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. He was. I had one just like that. He was with a previous instructor, and he came to me through word of mouth, and he said to me, "Look," he said, "I'm just really struggling." He said, I'm losing contact with the instructor. He's always late, or he always cancels on me, or whenever we do have a lesson, I don't feel like I'm like learning enough. I feel like it's just like the same stuff over and over again." And I was like, right, okay. So obviously he's already explained to me that he's obviously had previous lessons. So for me, it's just like, okay, getting in the car, getting a bit of a backstory, having a bit of a chat, as Becky mentioned, just having a chat, just like, okay, like just getting to know them a bit more, or making them feel a bit more comfortable as well, I think is most important. And then, yeah, we discussed the whole lesson. He said what he would like, his main goal, etc., and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. So I basically done a bit of an assessment drive on him. And yeah, I think it was quick. It was quick, like me noticing how quick. I was like, right, okay. And I think he was just like, was just so gobsmacked at the stuff that I was mentioning to him. He was like, oh my God, he was like, you know, I didn't notice that, or yeah, like that's what I got taught, and no, I didn't see it like that, and no, I don't know why I have to do it like that. And
so suddenly he's got this knowledge guru in front of him.
Yeah, like he's just got all of this knowledge, and he was just like, whoa, hold on a minute, like I never got that before. Like,
how did that make you feel, Jade?
For me, it was a bit of a like pat on the back moment, I think, for me as well. Like as if like someone's just stood there and gone, you know, like, oh, okay, like you do know what you're talking about. All that training has paid off, clearly. But yeah, that was really nice. That for me was like the biggest moment I think I've had since being an instructor, was just all of that. He was just gobsmacked through all of it. He was like, wow, he went, I can't believe that. Yeah, so it was really nice to see and hear. So yeah, it was really good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So lovely.
Yeah.
Scott, what would you think? Just chuck it back at you. What do you think about the first impression? You obviously have such a massive school, and you do all of your logos and your design and your font, and I know you mentioned stuff like that. What do you think about that first impression? Because you have, you know, I have a driving school. It's not as big as yours. I'm definitely more the training side of it. You have a different perspective to me and Jade. So what do you think about that first impression from your point of view?
Thanks for the compliment, but I
don't
think it's as big as you're making out. But it's everything to me. First impression. I don't think there is anything bigger. A bit like that age-old question of, you know, what's more important, sales or service? Well, you can't have one without the other. From my own experience, when I'm looking for a service, a product, it's the first thing that I see. So,
Hmm.
I use a phrase again, the shop window, Facebook and the website, and our branding, and ensuring that our branding stays consistent no matter what platform we're using or advertising on. So it's massive. Yeah, a lot of thought goes into it. You look at the podcast that we're doing now, the imagery that we're using and things like this. Not to create an aura of, oh my God, we've spent thousands on this, because we really haven't. We've just knocked heads and put it together. But we want it to be easy on the eye, don't we? And in terms of a driving school, I'm fully aware of, I look at data, performance matrix, I analyze information of where people are calling from, connecting to us from, and I try and make sure that the information they're looking for is readily available. And I'm aware that somebody out on their own, or one or two people, are out on the road. When do they have time to do this? So where do I focus most of my time and effort? And my opinion would be the social media platforms. So having a very clear and modern shop window, I use it again, face, is important. I'm sure there's a lot more people out there that are a lot more easy on the eye than I am, which is why I've never used my face for anything to do with my brand. But there are some people that can utilize that. And like you guys said, some people look for a female, and that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does.
But that's both in the learner sector and the instructor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, use what you've got, really. But yeah, in a nutshell, it is very, very important. I think it's above anything at all. If you've got a premium image, you can carry a premium price, and then backed up, once we've got them in the seat, we can then solidify, create loyalty, build rapport, and bolt on from there.
What's your guys' opinion? So we've talked about why learners choose us. Do you think learners know the difference between a pink and a green badge, and do you think that's a factor that they take into account when they're choosing you? Do you think they give a damn?
I'm going to say, I don't know. It's quite a difficult one to ask. Obviously, I've been on that trainee license, and I've had those thoughts myself of, am I going to be good enough for that student? I'm literally only on a trainee license. Like, I can't give them what an ADI can as such. Like, so I had those thoughts as well. But actually, I soon came to realise that once I was in this, like in the car with these students, that we was learning together. And I think that's what made it more like perfect for me, was that realisation of, like, actually, okay, if we both don't know something, let's go find it out together. We're doing this together. And they love that. And so, yeah, so I don't think it really matters, no. And I don't think they really notice if you weren't to say anything either, unless you actually tell them, oh, by the way, just to let you know. I don't think they will.
For me, is obviously I deal with phone calls from the first instance. So if they're being allocated to a trainee or a PDI, the PDI will have already had somebody speak to them, and they'd be aware of it.
Yeah.
So it's a softer sale when they're in the car, and it is a sale, isn't it? When they're sat in that car, you've got to sell your product, which is yourself and what you do. So for me, taking a phone call and having that conversation with somebody, yeah, it can matter, and it can matter quite a lot. And it does require, I don't know if the word convincing is right, but certainly it's a longer conversation. They are, well, what does it, what does that mean? What does a, I don't use the word PDI because it's an acronym that people just don't understand. So they're on a trainee license. What does that mean? And sometimes that conversation go in various different directions. But the point is that the public need to know what that means. They've had the same training that I've had. You mentioned earlier that you were training instructors as a PDI. So in my mind, these guys have got, certainly the ones that I've trained, have got the latest and most up-to-date information. They're fresher, they're newer. They probably can recall more things than I can. I might have to re-reference it. And also that these guys are supervised regularly and that they're worked with closely by a trainer. And if we need to move things about and give them additional time because the instructor's developing a certain skill, then we give them that. In terms of cost, is it going to be any cheaper? I've never had that asked by a potential customer or a potential customer's parent or guardian or friend or family member. That's never been asked, but it does get asked within our industry. And as far as I'm concerned, is we charge what we feel we're valued at. And I think it's probably more of a worry to the PDI than it is to the customer.
Yeah, I agree.
So yes, I do think it matters, but I think how it's handled matters more.
Yeah, I love that.
What about yourself?
Well, I had 4 of the buggers, didn't I? I had 4 trainee licenses across my.
That is greedy.
Oh, I know. Well, I had to go around twice, 4 training licenses.
You just enjoy it that much. You thought, you know what, I'm going to do this again.
Just kept going. I thought I'd failed for the fun of it. Yeah, I just kept going. And I never once had anybody say to me, "What's that in the corner of your window?" Never once.
No.
And
I did. That's really weird.
Yeah, honestly, never. And I took 4 part 3s across my 2 goes round and across my horrific journey, and I never felt I had to explain that I was a trainee. I never felt that I had to state this is my part 3 and this is what a part 3 means and this is that, and I think from my experience and just my experience alone, I don't think once they're in the car and they're in the driving seat, I don't think they really give a damn as long as you're showing your worth a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got everything to lose at that point, haven't you? So it is the initial contact, isn't it? It's that where they've seen us. Does it look good? Does it look professional? Is the price good? And then I might pick the phone up and see if you're available. But I think quite a lot's gone on before that's even happened, hasn't it? But the final sale, the gain of the loyalty is in that seat. There are other ways to gain loyalty from a customer before that's in that seat, and maybe that's a chat for a different time or a training session. But I think for me, if we sort of summarize this, is how do I make myself more visible? How do I make myself more attractive? Is your branding and being consistent. So logos, colors, maybe decals on your training vehicles, wherever it might be that you're putting out. Testimonials, so reviews, massive. They need to be. I mean, Google's just changed their algorithm again for a training session. Being on top and being abreast with the latest information and keeping everything uniform, I think is so important. And I think we need to ask ourselves the question, that it was put in our group. Well, why should people choose us? We need to tell people if that's what we specialize in. If we're specializing in anxiety, tell people. If we're specializing in vehicles that are adapted, tell people. Because if we don't tell people and we're waiting, and I think we found out from this conversation, we're waiting for people to get in the driving seat before they find that out, we may have missed potential customer already. They've gone elsewhere, and maybe they think Becky is the best thing since sliced bread. This is great, but she didn't have an opportunity to sit next to Jade. She didn't know about them, so we need to be out there. You need to have your shop window out there, and all these things that we've spoken about. I speak to lots and lots of different instructors, and some people. I mean, I'm very digital and I love technology. Lesson plans all personalized, and there's some there's some really funny things on this stuff, and I'm like, that's really cool. If I was presented with that, I'd love that. I'm not that artsy, but technology. I use technology. Some people love that, but I do also. We can lose sales because we use technology. Some people, I just want to pay cash, and I don't want all these frills and spills. But that's not our target market, and I think it's important that we have and we use what's right for our target market. And if we don't know what that is, then we need to ask ourselves, who am I targeting? On that, what I want to put to you guys is, so I've mentioned personalized lesson plans using technologies. Maybe it's a friendly follow-up message. What would you say is your key thing that you do that maybe other people don't? You might. I don't want you to give you your secrets away, but what's the one thing that you like? I like that I do this, and I'm not sure many other people do, that you're happy to share. The small touch that makes a big difference. Let's go with that.
I don't know.
I think that's okay.
Other than the fact that I don't know. It must just be because I'm funny.
It's the vibe, isn't it?
I like having a laugh. I think that's probably what it is. Like, I think they think that, we've got to be really serious. We're on our driving lesson. No, let's have a laugh. Let's have a bit of banter. I don't know. Maybe I think that's the one thing that stands out for me anyway. And I think people, when I crack jokes, like, you see it on their face of like, she just cracked a joke. Oh my God. I don't know why they think that you've got to be serious.
As you've mentioned it, I've got 3 complaints for today about these jokes that you keep cracking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
But I think that's all I can say. I think it's just because I bring the fun to it, and I don't think many people do. Yeah.
But if people that are watching this don't know much about bringing humour into it, how does that come about? At what point?
I think you've got to read the room first. 100%.
So for somebody like me who's terrible at that, someone that's terrible at reading the room like me, how would I know?
I think it all depends on conversation. I tend to start it off with a bit of a conversation first. So I ask not personal questions, but I like to
get to know them.
Yeah, I'm nosy. Tell me everything. Like, and then I'll make jokes about it. Let's make jokes about it. Let's have a laugh. Like,
I love that. So you basically address the elephant in the room and go,
yeah,
should we just enjoy this?
Yeah, like this. Okay. Yeah, it's got to be about that. Sometimes you can't let them get in the car and just be like, what do I do? Like they're all a bit nervous, and I'm like, no, don't be nervous. Come on, you'll be all right. Like, I'm just all like
on your first training session.
They've got no choice but to be,
I think Jade made a really good point there. It's about having a conversation. Being nosy, maybe being curious and just getting to know them. And taking some of the stuff they say and using it to your advantage to build that trust and rapport from lesson 1. So even just simple things like I had a new starter a little while ago who was studying, I think it was engineering at college. She was telling me about it, and that she really enjoyed circuits and stuff like that. It's not for me, but stuff like that. So when it came to asking her what she knew about how the mechanics of the car worked and what happens when the clutch goes down and stuff, we soon were able to link to, the clutch going down is like breaking the circuit, and that she got that, and I was able to help her relate something new that she's doing to something she already does. And I think that's really good when you're being curious and you're having those conversations. Just pick up on little things that you think, I can save that and I can use that in a little bit to not only show them that I was listening to them, which is a massive thing for especially kids that get in our cars these days. The past few years, they've had teachers telling them off, they've had the parents that teenagers hate, they've had politicians telling them to stay at home. When they get in our car, they do feel a little bit like, oh, well, my dad told me that he did this on his lesson and he did this. And that's all their kind of experience is. Like we mentioned earlier, they haven't got anyone to compare it to other than what people will tell them. This is what your lesson will be like. And then when they get in with us and we go, so tell me a little bit about yourself. How are you feeling? Let's have a little bit of chat. And they go, whoa, this adult actually gives a damn about me. I think that helps. That helps the trust and rapport straight away from the off. So I think following on from what Jade said, take the conversation and utilize it in the best way you can. Stick it in your pocket, use it for later.
So relatable, taking a genuine interest, actively listen and use what they're saying. I like that.
Yeah, because you think you're sitting next to that person for a very long time. You've got to put it out there. You've got to get to
listen,
know
yeah,
them.
we spend the best part of a year with these people, don't we,
Yeah.
on a weekly basis. No, absolutely.
What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I was just going to say, what about you, Scott?
For me, is that first impression is that I know who my target market is, and that I stick to that. So we offer the technology, the branding, invest in our own training, and that's what I promote, so people know that they're going to get the latest information and knowledge. And we're constantly updating our presence online, whether it's Facebook, Google, whatever, and that's what we're known for. So yeah,
Amazing.
perfect. Well, I think we've covered enough. I really enjoyed the chat. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's an interesting topic, and I'm sure you could do training sessions on this.
I think it's something that you could talk about so many other avenues about it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That there's trainings on it, especially sort of in business development side of things. Looking at what sets us out, what your unique selling points are. So anybody watching this that's now considering, hang on, like Jade said, I don't know, but I want to find out why I'm special, and I'm going to push it. And I think that's probably my thought to take away from this tonight is everyone's so different. There's so many pieces of the pie. Everyone can have a piece.
Yeah.
And we can use our strengths and what we enjoy, whether it's having a laugh and a joke, and that's the sort of people we want to attract because I want to go and enjoy my life and my job, then why not, while still getting the job done? Is it that I want to get to know people because I'm genuinely interested and feel that can support them in the best way and I can be empathetic? I think that's fantastic. And, if I want to help people that want to be using the latest technologies and methodologies, then they can do that too. Just to summarize the three points there, I think it's fantastic. So yeah, I mean, guys, thanks so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next one. Just want to say that if anybody else wants to get involved in these, then please let us know. Me and Becky, more than happy to have you on board. Help our little group grow, and add some more content that people actually want. So I appreciate, and I want to thank for those that suggested this as a topic. So thanks very much.